A lot of that can be said about you, Chaitanya. Of course, second film as good as the first film, which is a very tough act to follow for most people in that profession. But one of the things that I thought, you would go through after Court. I mean, of Court like was this film that everyone watched and were totally blown away by it, including me, of course, as a movie buff. And one of the first things I thought, because that was 2014, if I'm not mistaken, is when everyone
Yeah,
watched it for
yeah,
the first time.
yeah.
15, 16, 17, 18. Now, when you make a debut of that nature, I'm pretty sure all through that time, all those years, anybody who met you would just ask, "What are you up to next?" Right? Did that
Right.
happen a lot? Was it pissing you off?
It was not pissing me off. I would blame myself for being so slow.
Okay.
I mean, people are asking out of goodness. They're asking because they're curious. They're excited. It's better to be asked that question
Then
than
not.
nobody caring
Right.
about what you're doing. So it wasn't more about being pissed off, but I was really pissed at myself
Hmm.
because I was taking so much time to write the script. But now that I've gone through it, I know that it takes the time it takes. This was a subject which is an endless ocean of a field. It's got so many complexities. It's got so many, and there was no point in doing something that's like Indian classical music 101 or an outsider's exotic game.
Right.
I
Right.
had to really go deep. And also, I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the time that I spent on the post production of the film or the prep. So once I started working, it was all fine. It didn't matter. It took 4 years.
Right.
But that waiting period and when you're deciding or when you're not getting somewhere, that's when it gets a bit frustrating and you feel like an imposter.
Right.
And it's a process. I'm still feeling it again now. So
What I find interesting about your process, and it's very similar to a journalistic process in the sense that's really
yeah,
what journalists do to an extent, where they have no idea about the field that when they start out writing about it. And usually for journalists, for instance, there is a trigger point. There's something that they heard, and then thereafter they get into that world. Like I had no idea that you were completely a newbie to the court and the judicial system when you were making Court, and likewise with Hindustani classical music when you were making. Was there a trigger point for both those films? Something that you saw that led you to that world?
yeah, I think there was a more definite trigger point for Court.
Okay.
What had happened was I'd heard a story of somebody who had gone to the police station and they were, I guess, wrongly arrested and they needed a printout to prove something. And they told me that the police guys couldn't hook the printer in for like the longest time and they didn't know how to take a printout. Okay. And then I was watching a typical American courtroom drama at some point where like the lawyers were like super articulate and dramatic and, fighting for justice. And I was like, man, how would a real Indian courtroom be like? And then just thought of this policeman not trying to like get a printout but not happening. So I was like, what if I make a Bong Joon-ho courtroom drama in a lower court of Mumbai full of chaos? So it almost started off as a comedy.
Right.
So that was my trigger point for Court. For the Disciple, I think I know my entry point. I don't know my trigger point. My entry point was all these kissas that you hear, these anecdotes about musicians that once this happened, and some of them are really fantastical in nature, like modern day mythology type,
Right.
and secret rags and crazy amounts of practice. So that was my entry point. The stories sucked me in,
Right.
and then I started discovering the music, So
Right.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.